Before I start, I just want to say thank you to my Grand Archivist Dear patron, Karkat Katsune, for requesting this video. Thank you so much for your support. With that, let's get started, shall we? Hello and welcome to From Digital to D&D. For those of you unaware, this series sees a character from fiction receive a stat block for you to use in your games of D&D along with ways to use them. Naturally, any character that features in this series belongs to their respective owners. A staple of the Fate franchise has been summoned into service. Make way for the King of Knights, Artoria Pendragon, class name Saber. Now, before I begin to explain Saber's history, I just want to make it clear I had no knowledge of Fate in the slightest. And I learned real fast that this is one complex franchise. I did what I could to learn about Artoria, but with a franchise as complex as Fate, I am certain to have missed something, and if I make a mistake, I apologise. Artoria's story begins long before she was born. The kings of Britain were said to harness a mysterious power, but the last king would be Uther Pendragon. Uther could not produce a male heir, which was needed to continue the line of kings. To avoid his kingdom ending with himself, Uther sought to create a son and enlisted the aid of Merlin. Merlin foretold that a white dragon would come to destroy Britain, but a red dragon would defend it. Together, they infused the power of the red dragon into a child who would be born Artoria. Though she was not male, her power had the potential to be greater than any king who came before. Artoria was entrusted to Merlin's care, and whilst Uther lamented that he did not have a male heir, Merlin knew Artoria was the once and future king. Merlin would protect the infant child for 5 years until he entrusted her to Sir Kay. To hide her identity, Sir Kay was instructed to raise Artoria as his brother. Sir Kay would train Artoria as she grew up, going by the name Artorius. By day, she would learn swordcraft and chivalry. By night, she would be taught lessons by Merlin through her dreams. This life lasted until Artoria turned 15 when the day of prophecy arrived. Uther had passed and countless lords and knights gathered to select the next king. All expected to show their prowess in jousting, but all they found was a naked blade thrust into a stone. Upon it read, "Whosoever pulleth out this sword of this stone is rightwise king born of England." Many tried to pull the sword from the stone, but all failed. The knights and lords prepared to settle the dispute with jousting. The apprentice Artoria reached for the blade. Before she touched it, Merlin appeared and warned her that should she take the blade, Artoria would no longer be human. She did not hesitate to accept her destiny and pulled Caliburn from its resting place. As Caliburn felt the air touch its blade, it shone with a radiant light as it flooded Artoria with power. No longer would anyone care for the king's appearance or gender so long as they act like a king. A side effect of this was that Artoria stopped aging, her body staying at 15 years old. Over the next 10 years, Artoria assembled the Knights of the Round Table and slew the White Dragon. During this time, Artoria also came into possession of the legendary blade Excalibur, whose power had no equal. This came as a result of Caliburn being destroyed. Under her kingship, the kingdom of Camelot flourished for many years. Artoria's reign grew even stronger once she obtained the scabbard of Excalibur, Avalon. But a rot festered within the kingdom in the form of Artoria's sister Morgan Le Fay, who envied Artoria and wanted her throne. Questions of the king's heir began to surface. Though the magic of Caliburn helped mask Artoria's gender, many believed her to be male. And with Caliburn gone, Artoria needed to be careful about revealing her true gender. If the truth was revealed, it would destabilize the kingdom. the best way to dispel these problems was to marry a woman and produce an heir. Artoria married Guinevere, but the problem of conception remained. So like her father before her, Artoria turned to Merlin for aid. Merlin enchanted Artoria to have male parts. But Morgan Le Fay enchanted Artoria and stole her sister's sperm and impregnated herself with it. Now, if you just did a double take, don't worry, I did too. Morgan Le Fay would give birth to Artoria's clone/child, Mordred. Thus began the decline of Artoria. Whilst the people loved the king for defending them from invaders, Artoria's approach to times of peace were not as beloved. This was because she kept the oath that the king was not human and one cannot protect the people with human emotion. Sir Lancelot of the Round Table had an affair with Queen Guinevere. A traitor revealed this truth. Artoria would pardon this, as she understood the situation, but Lancelot fled Camelot, which destabilised the Round Table. Civil unrest began to tear Camelot apart, and Avalon was stolen. Though Artoria tried to quell the rebellion, Mordred would mortally wound her father. As she bled out, Artoria lamented her failures and beseeched the counterforce. She agreed to become a counter-guardian in exchange for a chance to seek the Holy Grail and use its power to save her country. Artoria would become a servant and fight in the Holy Grail Wars as Saber. In that moment, Artoria was frozen in time and space, only moving when called to fight. But she would never claim her prize, instead finding herself trapped in an infinite loop of hell. Eventually, Artoria accepted her death, and her body was transported to the Utopia of Avalon, where she would rest until the day the once and future king would return to save Britain. The life of Artoria Pendragon was tragic, as she did all she could to do what was right, but in the end, her fate was sealed. And if you're wondering if I'll cover her story as a servant, no, this section is way too long already. I skimmed over it, but in Fate, Artoria can be summoned as a servant. She most often appears as a Saber class hero, one of the 3 Knight class servants. A summoner who competes in a Holy Grail war can use its magic to summon a spirit of the past, of which Artoria is one of them. Essentially, Artoria becomes a familiar and is bound to a master. Summoning a hero like Artoria takes a miraculous amount of power due to her power. Amongst all Saber class heroes, Artoria is the strongest. By taking the name and class of Saber, Artoria can be given a new body and allow her to exist in the time she has been called. As a powerful heroic spirit, none can truly control Artoria, but she and her master will share the goal of acquiring the Holy Grail, making cooperation advantageous. Due to the rules of magecraft, Artoria cannot tap into her full power unless her master can withstand it, which very few can. But assuming they can, the King of Knights has a multitude of powers. All of Artoria's powers link to her magic core, which is that of the Red Dragon. If a normal magus is a machine of magical energy, Artoria is a factory. Due to her draconic power, her magic works differently from others. In simple terms, Artoria has a wellspring of power at her disposal that fuels her abilities. As the rightful and honourable King of Britain, Artoria is a master of combat. She can use anything as a melee weapon. Her preferred weapon is a sword, but she can fight unarmed if needed. As a Saber class hero, Artoria is best at offense, but she can go on the defense if she must. The armor she wears is comprised of her own magical energy, which she can summon and dismiss at will. As a servant, she can defy normal physics. She can run directly up a building, and so long as she doesn't stop, she won't fall. Among the many blessings of the Lady of the Lake, one of them allows Artoria to move over and through water without issue, her feet splashing against the surface. She has a natural resistance to magic, which is multiplied as a Saber class hero. Only powerful magic such as true magic and those with divinity can pierce it, all other spells simply having no effect. This allows Artoria to charge through spells that would cripple others without fear. She's also proficient in mounted warfare, but I'll say this now, I haven't included this due to 5e's wonky rules about mounted combat. As for her personal skills, Artoria has several of note. The first is Mana Burst. This technique allows Artoria to infuse her body and weapon with a burst of magic to empower her strikes. Arguably one of her strongest is her Instinct. Essentially, it lets Artoria innately determine the best course of action, like a form of foresight. Artoria can predict when an enemy will attack and already enact a counter before they have even begun to attack. It was this power that helped Artoria slay the White Dragon and save Sir Gawain from death. Landing a hit on Artoria is extremely difficult, as you need to somehow force her into a situation where she cannot dodge. There are ways to bypass it, but few have this power. As the once and future king, Artoria's charisma is very high. Her presence alone is able to inspire others and let her innately command an army. But now, onto the most important part. Noble phantasms. To put it simply, they are armaments of incredible power which can appear as almost anything. Most servants only have one, but Artoria has 3. Her first is Invisible Air. Due to the magic that binds a servant, the true identity of Artoria carries weight. And few would not recognise Artoria's blade, and by extension, King Arthur. Invisible Air shrouds her blade in a whirlwind of air, making it nearly invisible. Beyond the anonymity it provides, this phantasm makes Artoria's attacks harder to counter, and she can unleash a blast of compressed wind from the blade, though doing so ends the effect. Next up is This one is split into 2 sections. First is the blade itself. Excalibur is a divine construct like no other. To describe the holy blade as beautiful would only dirty it. Forged by 6 fairies, the blade is most powerful when fighting a threat to the world. Very few weapons can withstand the power of Excalibur. And in Artoria's hands, it is even greater than before. By gathering her energy into it, Artoria can unleash a beam of pure light from the blade which serves as one of the strongest attacks in Fate. Almost nothing can survive the full blast, but this has a cost. The mana consumption is great, and if Artoria is not careful, it will force her to fade away. But with the power of her final phantasm, this is not an issue. Her last phantasm is Avalon, the scabbard of Excalibur. This one works differently due to the fact Artoria did not have Avalon when she became a servant and therefore must find it herself. If she reclaims her scabbard, Artoria can heal from any wound so long as her brain is intact. Even the power of Enema Elish is only kept Artoria down for a few minutes, and this costs no mana at all. If Artoria invokes Avalon's name, she can deploy a bounded field, basically a powerful force field around her. Nothing can bypass this shield. Finally, Avalon increases Artoria's power to a degree that she can unleash the light of Excalibur up to 4 times, though this still tires her out. And that's all the abilities of Artoria I'm going to mention for now. She has so many, but I feel these are her primary powers. Just like the franchise she hails from, Artoria has a lot to work with here. When making stat sheets, I try to find the balance between simplicity and honouring the source material. Artoria was tricky, arguably the most tricky character I have converted so far. I hope I have done her justice. You're welcome to judge for yourself if I achieve this goal, but there is a lot I'd like to go over. We'll start with traits. As a Saber class who has mastered chivalry, Artoria is at her best when fighting one-on-one. Chivalric Honor makes Artoria hit even harder against an enemy she fights in an honourable duel. Arguably one of her strongest traits is Instinct, which essentially gives Artoria the permanent effects of Foresight as long as she isn't incapacitated. Given the fact she is King Arthur, the King of Knights trait lets everyone not hostile to Artoria add 1d12 to an attack or saving throw once per turn. As covered in the feature breakdown, most magic doesn't work on Artoria. Only spells of 7th level can have a chance of affecting her. Moving on to actions, Artoria's main attack is Excalibur. You might argue that as the Holy Blade of Legend, having a plus 14 to hit is somewhat low, but there is a key detail about Excalibur. Its true power only kicks in when fighting a threat to the planet. Most creatures in D&D are not planetary threats. I mean, maybe some parties are, but that's on the DM to decide. Each hit deals 3d8/3d10 plus 7 slashing damage plus 3d12 radiant damage. Given she can attack 3 times during her turn with advantage, that's an average of 126 damage from her normal attacks. Before I describe Airstrike, I need to explain Invisible Air. As a bonus action, Artoria can turn Excalibur invisible, and whilst it is invisible, it deals an extra 2d8/2d10 slashing damage. That pushes the average to 159, by the way. Going back to Airstrike, it requires Invisible Air to be active. Whilst active, Artoria can fire a blast of air in a 120 foot long line. Anything in said line must make a DC 22 dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 6d6 bludgeoning damage, and if it is huge or smaller, it is either pushed 20 feet away or knocked prone. On a success, it takes half the damage and isn't pushed/knocked prone. Once Airstrike is used, Invisible Air ends. Artoria's final action is This lets Artoria fire a beam of holy light in a 1,000 foot long line that is 20 feet wide once per long rest. Each creature in the line must make a DC 22 dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 20d12 radiant damage. That is an average of 130 radiant damage. On a success, the creature takes half as much damage. Objects and structures within the line also take the damage, meaning that hiding behind a wall will not protect you. The only thing immune to this is an artifact. That's right, unleashing Excalibur damages magical items. If this beam kills a creature, which it has good odds of doing, it disintegrates, only leaving behind any artifacts it was carrying. Finally, one last effect kicks in if a creature damaged by this beam loses at least half of its total hit points as a result of it. Should this happen, the creature is stunned for 1 minute. This action has a cost, however. Artoria has to make a DC 22 Constitution saving throw. If she fails, she gains 3 levels of exhaustion. If she succeeds, she takes 1 level of exhaustion. As a reminder, in 5e, exhaustion has 6 levels. 1 level gives you disadvantage on ability checks. 2 halves your speed. 3 gives you disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. 4 halves your maximum hit points. 5 reduces your speed to 0, and 6 straight up kills you. Artoria puts herself at great risk if she uses Excalibur. Moving on, Artoria can use Mana Burst similarly to Divine Smite. When she hits a creature with an attack, she can use a bonus action to force it to make a DC 22 Constitution saving throw. Failure means 6d12 force damage, and success halves that. Like any competent swordsman, Artoria can parry an attack as a reaction, raising her AC to 28 against 1 attack. Next up we have legendary actions. Her options are simple, but given the power she has, she doesn't need fancy options. But you might notice something. Where is Avalon? It's a variant option. If Artoria has Avalon, her CR of 21 increases to 25. That is because of the new features it provides. First is a new reaction, Ultimate Bounded Field, which has a recharge of 5 to 6. When Artoria is targeted by something, she can cast Resilient Sphere on herself. It only lasts until the start of her next turn, but whilst active she is protected from almost everything. The Eternal Life trait lets Artoria regain 30 hit points at the start of her turn. The only way to stop this is by destroying her brain, so, much like a troll, Artoria will keep getting up if you don't kill her properly. Finally, we come to Excalibur's Hilt. This new trait lets Artoria use Excalibur 4 times per long rest instead of once. That's 80 d12 with an average of 520 damage. In addition, she has advantage on her saving throw against the effect, and succeeding no longer adds a level of exhaustion. Whew, that was a long one. Let's move on, shall we? The way I see it, there are 2 ways to introduce Artoria into a campaign. Either it is during her time in life, or it is during her time as a servant. I would suggest the latter. Given Artoria is one of the most lawfully good characters I have ever seen, I would doubt any summoner of darker intentions could bring her forth. And if they could, I doubt they could control her. Then again, Saber Altar shows she can be turned to the dark, so who knows. If you want an evil Artoria, go for it. But regardless of who does it, Artoria must be summoned by another. You could have the party partake in a Holy Grail war, and they meet Artoria along the way. But if you want to avoid the Holy Grail war, how about this? An ancient kingdom has a final line of defense should the darkest days befall it. Now, the kingdom faces ruin, and the party must work to uncover who or what the final defense is. Entering deep within the palace, they find a shrine to the founder of the kingdom, the legendary King of Knights. With careful deduction, the party learn that the shrine can call forth the spirit of the first king and have them defend the kingdom. An entire campaign could be working towards summoning Artoria. Or maybe the party are the threat to the kingdom, and in one last desperate act, the kingdom summons Artoria to slay the party. Few can withstand the might of King Arthur. But how about another suggestion? Like all characters in this series, nothing is stopping you from flavouring the stat sheet into another character. One thing should be present no matter how you use Artoria. Her very presence will change the tide of battle. But with that, we've reached the end of today's video. Before you head off, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you managed to get something out of this. If you feel like helping out, you can become a patron using the link in the description. The stat block for Artoria is available on D&D Beyond for free, and the link to it is in the description. I hope you all have a great day, and may your dice roll favourably. Thank you so much Karkat Kitsune for suggesting this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye for now.